Krystal, I really want to move on to this post from Donald Trump, and I also just kind of want to inject it straight into my veins. This is C4. This is a Truth Social post from Trump where he said Walmart should stop trying to blame tariffs as the reason for raising prices throughout the chain. Walmart made billions of dollars last year, far more than expected. Between Walmart and China, they should, as is said, quote, eat the tariffs.
As one says.
As is said, the popular phrase,
popular
eat the
saying,
tariffs,
eat the tariffs.
and not charge valued customers anything, all caps. I'll be watching, and so will your customers. The reason I say I wanted to inject this into my vein, Krystal, is this is how I generally feel about most things that get passed down to consumers from these corporations. It drives me completely insane. They never pass it down to their workers, and then they're doing all kinds of stupid stuff like buybacks and whatever else. But it's actually, I think, a really fantastic point. But the problem for Trump, obviously, is he's not really doing anything to force them to not pass the costs down. And there are all kinds of carrots and sticks that can be used as part of an industrial policy. So that aside, I do want to say, according to Business Insider, according to the AFL-CIO, which tracks CEO pay, Walmart's CEO is the highest paid CEO in all of retail, which is not surprising at all, but took home a cool $27 million last year. And again, if you're looking, Target CEO, by the way, that was down to $19 million. Costco, $16 million. This is an incredibly high level of CEO pay. The ratio to worker pay is not great, obviously, either. And that stuff actually does drive me absolutely insane. That we just say, instead of maybe reshoring, eating some costs, whatever, they insist on paying their executives at completely unpatriotic, unethical levels, and it is absolutely bananas. So on the one hand, I think Donald Trump is absolutely 1,000% correct on this question. On the other hand, there has to be a series of carrots and sticks.
Well, and listen, corporations are going to corporation. They're going to businesses. They're going to, they're going to do their capitalist
free market,
thing.
baby. Yeah.
And and you're not doing anything, to your point, to make that not be the case. But also, watch me here defend Walmart. When you're talking about a 30% tariff, their profit margins are not 30%. Like, you can't just eat that. There is inevitably going to be some amount of that, even if they eat some of it. And they can eat some of it. This is a very profitable corporation, don't get me wrong, and they pay their CEO an insane amount. All of those things are absolutely true. They don't have a 30% profit margin. So if many of their goods are coming from China, or parts coming from China and being assembled here, et cetera, then what you're going to end up with is, yes, some costs getting passed on to consumers, or the other alternative is some costs getting passed on to the small businesses that are selling those goods to Walmart. And that's actually where a lot of the squeeze is going to come. Remember, we talked about this lady who has her busy baby mat thing that she finally got into Walmart. Small business, based here in America. She wanted to make her product in America. It was literally impossible. So she made it in China. And it was the only place where she could really go and get what she needed for this very specialized product. She gets her product picked up by Walmart. Well, that's at a set contracted price.
Yeah.
So, and Walmart, I think, weren't they the ones that put out the thing that were like, we're not accepting price increases, sorry, with regard to tariffs. So it's going to be people like her who get completely screwed, who are locked into this contract at this price that is now completely unattainable. Now, 30% tariff is better than the 145% tariff that it was, but that is still a dramatic increase in cost. And, I don't know the specifics for her business, but for many small and medium business owners, that will completely put them under. So that's the actual reality that you're talking about here in terms of who is going to, quote unquote, eat the tariffs.
Yeah, and again, it's Donald Trump knows how Walmart is going to handle this. He knows exactly that they can't. The CEO pay thing is an interesting glimpse into all of this. It's not just one company. Like, Walmart couldn't just stop paying this guy. It's like 20 million of this is tied up in stock awards annually. So they can't do that. He could choose to be a decent human being and pass some of his salary on to workers and not hike prices. He could choose to do that, but the entire system is not going to fix itself because first of all, Walmart in and of itself reacts as Donald Trump wants them. And singling out Walmart, by the way, means that he's taking away, or he's trying to take away some of the market advantage for them, and that their competitors can do differently. So it's an incredibly fragile ecosystem that he's working with here, and you can't just expect one person or one retail chain, even as massive as it is, to do those sorts of things. But CEO pay, I mean, these guys, if you want to find a CEO, they're all making stupid money, and so you have to pay them competitively. The thing to do is just to create a culture of shame around that level of intake. And especially when it's the ratio, like that should be so incredibly shameful. The idea that you would be taking home this type of money and then hiking prices on consumers because there's a attempt to actually reshore some manufacturing and those, like that should be shameful. And so I think Trump is trying to do some version of that, but it's pretty hard for him, especially when they're doing their tax cut bill. They're about to cut corporate taxes. Besant's goal is to take it from 21 to 15%. It's a really mixed messaging situation for the administration.
That's about the most positive thing I think you could possibly say about it. But yes, I'm in favor of creating a culture of shame, but growing a culture of shame around this and many other things besides, because I think shamelessness is one of the sort of like key values of MAGA world and Trump.
We're actually going to talk about this in the tax block, so stick around, and we're going to talk about how it was created and how it sort of was grown and on the right and how that took off. So that's actually a good tie-in to that segment. Let's listen to C6. This is Donald Trump talking about the return of those arbitrary tariffs. Go ahead and roll it.
We just reached a fantastic trade deal, as you know, with the United Kingdom, which was wonderful. And we have another big one that we just reached with China. The China deal is a very big deal. It's in the process of continuing to be formed. But they wanted to make that deal very badly. And we have, at the same time, 150 countries that want to make a deal, but you're not able to see that many countries. So at a certain point over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think Scott and Howard will be sending letters out, essentially telling people, it would be very fair, but we'll be telling people what they'll be paying to do business in the United States. So essentially be paying to be doing business in the United States. I guess you could say they could appeal it, but for the most part, I think we're going to be very fair. But it's not possible to meet the number of people that want to see us. And but this was coming to UAE was very important. Coming to Saudi Arabia and Qatar was very important to me because of personal relationships that I had, maybe more than anything else.
So yeah, that was Trump in the UAE. Now this is.
The personal relationships part was interesting too there at the end of like, yeah, I probably went there because I like these guys and they were going to give me some business deals. So
yeah, and him also saying we don't have the ability to meet with all of the people that want to meet with us. That's something we were told that they did have the ability to do during
90
Liberation
deals in 90
Day.
days, remember? Wasn't that the goal?
It's no problem whatsoever.
This is the greatest deal maker of all time, and he's going to put on a masterclass for all of us.
They're teasing like 18 deals that they say they have, something like that over the course of this week that they're planning to get to the bottom of. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what they're doing right there is lowering expectations for that not coming to fruition, and maybe they'll get a few key deals, UK, India, maybe Japan, like maybe they will get a few things that they can point to and say, listen, we put the screws to everyone. But it sounds like they're actually not getting the response that they want from other countries and are lowering expectations.
And other countries looked at what China did, which is basically nothing and win.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're like, well, why should we come on bended knee when we've got a model here in what the Chinese were able to pull off? Now, not every country has, no other country really, has as much sort of power in these negotiations as the Chinese do. But I do think that that was a learning and a model and a lesson for other countries that make it less likely that you're going to be able to strike all of these deals that we were, promised going in. And Scott Bessent was pressed on, okay, well, so if you're going to just sort of like figure out whatever the tariff rate is without going through these negotiations, what level are we looking at? And he said effectively, well, I guess we'll go back to the Liberation Day rates. So the chart, with the penguins and all of that, and 50% on Lesotho and all of that, apparently that's coming back. So let's take a listen to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
Mr. Secretary, does that effectively mean that these negotiations with other countries are over? And how high should they expect tariffs to go? Above 10%?
This means that they're not negotiating in good faith. They are going to get a letter saying, here is the rate. So I would expect that everyone would come and negotiate in good faith.
You expect that rate, though, that you would slap on any country that you think is not negotiating in good faith to be above 10%?
Well, I think that it would be the April 2nd level. Some countries were at 10%, some were substantially higher.
So back to Liberation Day, Emily.
Well, that's why. So what was this? Yeah, it was last week. I think it was last Monday. I just was not willing to call Trump's China tariff move a capitulation quite yet, because I'm like, I think they still don't know what's happening. There's still, they don't really have a strategy here. Their strategy is still just let people come to us and do ad hoc, have a kind of ad hoc approach to putting the screws to other countries and getting, they don't have levels that they want to see other countries get to. They just want to sort of negotiate some of these non-trade barriers and all non-tariff trade barriers and all of this stuff. And I think that's what we're seeing from that Trump clip and this Besson clip is just that they're feeling like they're not getting good enough deals, and so they're going back to threatening April 2nd levels. I mean, it's just completely unpredictable, which is not what they need right now at all. They need some type of certainty. At this point, they need to have a lot of deals inked that look good, that look pretty, that people can be confident that that's where the level is going to be going forward, that people can be, even if they think it's too high and it's not going to be great for the United States, at the end of the day, they can say this is what it's going to look like, and we can make investments accordingly. The bill is a disaster for them right now in the House, and well, it's not even over at the Senate side yet, but that's already choppy. So if they're even able to pass that is an open question. And on top of that, they now don't have, they're going away from clarity on these questions, and they might need to get good deals.
Are those investment tax credits even in this bill? Do we know?
Yes.
They are.
Yeah, they're in the bill, but I don't know, that could change. I mean, that could change when it gets to the Senate. The whole reconciliation process is so uncertain. You're throwing things in, taking them out at the last minute to make these deals. So who knows if they stick around?
The reason why I felt comfortable calling it a capitulation and still do is in the context of China. The initial rhetoric from Trump was so maximalist about I don't even know why we have overseas supply chains. And they were talking about a total decoupling from China. And backing off of that unilaterally without getting anything really in exchange. I mean, really, truly nothing in exchange from China other than, they'll talk to us about fentanyl. That I think is fair to call a capitulation. They realized they could not take this immediate maximalist approach to China specifically and be able to survive what the stock and the bond markets and the domestic political situation, all of that was going to throw at them. Now, I think it's fair to say, and I felt this as well, that doesn't mean that Trump is done with tariffs.
I was going to say, I think it could still change.
Well, and first of all, 30%, we got a level set here. If we had gotten 30%, if there'd never been the 145% and just out of the gates what was announced was 30%, we would all be like, holy shit, that is a gigantic tariff.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? That's like Smoot-Hawley level style tariff. It's a massive tax increase on working class people. It is an extraordinary economic political event. And as I've also been saying, Trump loves tariffs because they give him all of this unilateral power. And we've learned more about that since the Liberation Day and what they've been using, some of the things that he's been using that leverage in order to accomplish. And actually one of the key things is apparently to help out his buddy Elon Musk with Starlink. They've been using, the State Department has been using the tariffs as sort of a, mob boss tactic to get countries that were reluctant to take up Starlink to go ahead and, accept to have licenses for this product. So, I don't think that he's done with tariffs because if there's one thing we've seen in Trump 2.0, it is all about him consolidating as much power as he can in his own hands and in the hands of the executive. And tariffs are a key part of that story that allows him to, all the businesses have to come to him, all of the countries have to come to him, something that he can use as a carrot, as a stick, et cetera. And that's why I think we're far from finished with the tariff conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And your point about the 30% level, when Orrin Cass and American Compass proposed that 10% global tariff, there was a massive freakout. And now that looks like sweet relief to the markets and to the corporate class.
Well, what was inflation at its peak under Biden with COVID? It never hit 10%. And so if you are talking about 10% around the world, you know, it may not be exactly 10% inflation that you're going to experience, but it's going to be a significant amount. I mean, that is a dramatic economic event, just 10% across the board, let alone 30% here and 50% there, and you know what they contemplated on April 2nd, and apparently are still contemplating going back to.
And it's possible we look back at this moment, and you know, over the course of the last two plus months, I mean, it's been so crazy. You never know how this stuff ages because they're so ad hoc about this. And again, I think they see that as part of the leverage, that it's creating uncertainty, and other countries, to your point, have to kind of come on bended knee. And that's sort of what they're saying here is Trump and the UAE in that clip we rolled was saying, well, we don't even have time to meet with all of you. You want to do trade with us, but we don't even have time to talk to you. Like, that's how powerful we are.
That's
and
right.
Of course, I think we could look back on this and be like, this was just a moment where they were, you know, feeling uncertain about the deals. They felt like they weren't getting enough deals, and because they flexed like this, everyone ended up coming back and, you know, making better deals, whatever. But that's just really not the trajectory, again, of the last like 6 weeks. We're how many weeks into, like 6-7 weeks into post-Liberation Day world, and there aren't a lot of deals coming to fruition. There's scattershot ones, and I think some of them are like actually good changes, the way that it's looking with the UK. It looks like a decent step. It looks like a step in the right direction, roughly. But this was worldwide, essentially. I mean,
and also, it's not like, I mean, whether you think that the UK deal is marginally better than the status quo or not, it's not like this was a game changer.
No. It's
all of this, you know?
No, not at all. And that's the thing, is like you just need to see, I mean, you would need to see a lot more than what's been seen so far.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.